Hey, it's Kurt at the Top Corner Hockey Studios, Top Corner Hockey on Facebook, Top Corner Kurt on Instagram. Thanks for watching. I was reading that the U.S. women's national hockey team may be boycotting the upcoming Women's World Hockey Championships because some players on that team feel they're being paid unfairly. I really enjoy women's hockey. Even though I know it's going to be Canada versus the U.S. in the gold medal game, I always find women's hockey entertaining. It's emotional. And I would really miss that if the U.S. chose to follow through on their boycott and skip the upcoming World Women's Hockey Championships. It got me thinking about two of the best games I've ever seen. They are the 2002 Olympic gold medal game between Canada and the U.S. and the 2014 Canada-U.S. Olympic gold medal game. A long time ago, I was talking to Paul Henderson. Yeah, that same Paul Henderson. And I remember asking him if there was any recent hockey game that reminded him of Canada's Game 8 victory in 1972 over the Soviet Union. He immediately responded that the 2002 women's team at the Salt Lake City Games, with that gold medal victory over the U.S., totally reminded him of that resilience, that determination, those guts that Canadian hockey is well known for and that others expect to see. It was a triumphant victory for Canada to overcome so much in that game to win the gold medal. This is going to be hard, but I wanted to explore which was the more improbable victory. Canada's 2002 Olympic gold medal over the U.S. or Canada's 2014 Olympic gold medal over the U.S. women's team. Both showed great determination, both were courageous, both were improbable victories. Let's take a closer look. Going into the Salt Lake City Olympic Games in 2002, the U.S. women's team was on fire. They had won their last 35 straight games, including 8 in a row over Canada. The Canadian girls were basically the same team that lost the gold medal to the Americans 4 years earlier in Japan. The defending Olympic champs were in a good position to repeat. Caroline Ouellette opened the scoring in the gold medal game in the first period. After the U.S. tied it in the second, Hayley Wickenheiser gave the Canadians the lead again. Then Jana Hefford scored on a breakaway with 1 second left in the second period, giving the Canadians a 3-1 lead heading into the final frame. I remember feeling pretty good about things going into the third period. Those feelings changed quickly though. I don't know why or whatever her motivation was, but American referee Stacey Livingston was basically wearing an American sweater because she called penalties against Team Canada as often as she took a breath. Why the U.S. ref was calling a gold medal game between Canada and the U.S. in Utah makes all reason stare, but that's what happened. Livingston called an absurd amount of phantom and borderline penalties against Team Canada. Trips were made up, love taps judged to be serious stick penalties. It was atrocious. Livingston gave the U.S. 8 straight power plays, including 2 5-on-3s, all in the third period. Yet somehow, the Canadian girls battled, dug deep, and willed their exhausted PK time after time. It was their indomitable character that won the day. Canada killed off 10 of America's 11 total power plays during the game. With the help of their striped friend, the U.S. did score less than 4 minutes into the third period to come within 1, and despite tremendous pressure all period long, they could not tie it, and Canada won 3-2. Kim St. Pierre made 25 saves in goal. As it should be, she was Canada's best penalty killer. No question, it was a close game, a tight game in fact. The Canadians remember how happy they were to see the girls get gold around their necks after such trying times. It took the best hockey of their lives from each player on Team Canada to get it done, but I'm sure they'd agree it was worth 24-carat payback. Let's move up the road, and 12 years later to Sochi at the 2014 Olympics. Canada had defended their 2002 gold medal at both the 2006 and 2010 Olympics in Turin and Vancouver. Hayley Wickenheiser, Jana Hefford, and Caroline Ouellette were the only members left from the '02 games still playing for Canada. The game was physical, displayed by the 5 penalties called in the first, but despite the power plays, neither team could score. In the second, the U.S. would break the ice on a goal by Megan Dugan. Canada had a great chance to tie it during a 90-second 5-on-3, but they could not find the back of the net, and the U.S. kept their lead coming home. Early in the third, Hillary Knight scored on a power play, giving the U.S. a 2-0 advantage. The physical game continued, but the Americans' superior speed was greatly wearing down the Canadians, and it looked like the U.S. was going to be able to hold the fort and win Olympic gold for the first time in 16 years. It looked like the Canadians were out of magic. They looked like the second best team in the rink all game. But with 3.5 minutes to go in the third, Breanne Jenner's shot went off an American defender's knee and into the net, making it a 1-goal game. Suddenly, there was hope. With Shannon Zabatos on the bench, 21-year-old Marie-Philippe Poulin scored to even the game at 2 with less than a minute to go. How do these girls keep pulling it together when it seems like the world is against them? Really makes them a special treat to watch. Overtime was nuts and a bit controversial as, again, the officiating played a big role. At least this time, it was a neutral referee as Britain's Joy Topman was in charge. Canada's Catherine Ward was called for cross-checking at 6:09. However, just seconds later, the ref called American Jocelyn Lemieux for slashing. It was a weak call, too, as Lemieux just kind of tapped Zabatos' pads. As the two played OT 3-on-3, Wickenheiser earned a breakaway, but was hauled down from behind by Knight, and Knight was penalized for tripping. Wick should have been granted a penalty shot, but the call did give Canada a 4-on-3 power play. As the Canadian power play worked down to its final seconds, Poulin converted on the cross-ice pass from Laura Fortino, and Canada won gold, snatching it right out of the hands of the Americans. What looked like a sure thing turned on its heel, and out of nowhere, Canada won its 5th straight Olympic women's gold medal. Unbelievable. Can you imagine being down 2-0 with less than 4 minutes to go in the gold medal game and coming back to win? The 2014 Canadian Olympic women's hockey team may go down as the greatest comeback in hockey history. It's really difficult for me to decide which had the more improbable victory, the Canadian women's team in 2002 or the 2014 edition. Millions of Canadians watched both games. I was watching it, I'm sure you were watching it. The Canadian men's Olympics teams watched those games, and both on occasions they said how inspirational it was to watch the women overcome so much adversity to claim gold. Both women's hockey teams overcame significant obstacles. In 2002, the Canadian girls played basically a third of the game shorthanded. But it was more than just being shorthanded, it was how the ref was calling the game. It was horribly frustrating to watch from home, let alone being in the game. I remember thinking, surely the U.S. would eventually score with one of their infinite power play chances. They were too good not to get 1 out of 100 opportunities. In 2014, it was playing catch-up all game to an opponent that was clearly superior. The Americans were the better team for 90% of that game. Scoring 2 goals in the dying minutes and then pulling away with an overtime victory seemed impossible. I remember thinking the game was over. I was mentally preparing myself to accept the fact the U.S. played a better game than we did. I think everybody but the players and coaches for Team Canada were feeling the same way. The 2014 gold medal win is like a fairy tale. The hero is down and out, but has just enough strength at the end to win the day. 2002 is also very much like Games 6 and 8 of the Summit Series. In those games, the Soviet-chosen West German referees made no debate about which side they were on. Those two knuckleheads called 14 penalties in 2 games against the Canadians. Stacey Livingston's officiating in the 2002 gold medal game puts her on the wall of shame with Franz Bader and Joseph Kompala. Somehow, the Canadians won all 3 of those games in which amateur officiating was demonstrated. With that said, 2002 to me is the more improbable victory than 2014. Yes, Canada had a 2-goal lead in 2002, something they never had in 2014. But on Salt Lake City, the Canadian women were dealing with enemy territory, a partisan crowd, the recent 8-game losing streak to the U.S., on top of the frustration of all those bad calls. Being shorthanded for nearly an entire period does not reflect the best hockey from the top 2 hockey nations. It's never happened before and shouldn't ever happen again. How the women managed to stay focused while playing so mad is a remarkable achievement. Then, of course, there's the talent the women demonstrated. They won the game thanks to the structure of their special teams, excellent goaltending, and timely goals. Remember, Wickenheiser's 2-1 goal came just minutes after the U.S. tied it, and of course Hefford's unforgettable chip shot with a second left are both excellent examples of getting goals right when you need them the most. It's really difficult, because both games are special and both games are near to my heart, and I remember watching both of them so well. But I do pick the 2002 Canadian Women's Olympic Hockey Team as the most improbable victory over the U.S. in the history of those two nations matching up. Boy, I hope that the U.S. women's team and the U.S. national program figure things out so that the U.S. women's national team can attend the Women's World Hockey Championships coming up real soon. It would be a shame to have Canada go in there alone and just steamroll everybody, not have any close matches, not have any emotion that we see so many times, just about every time, when Canada and the U.S. women's get together for ice hockey. What do you think was the most improbable victory? Was it 2002 or 2014? Or maybe there's something else. There are so many matches to choose between Canada and the U.S. when it comes to women's hockey. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please continue to like and subscribe. I'm Kurt. This is Top Corner Hockey. Thanks for watching. See you next time.